Okay, so um, apple cider vinegar, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it. So we're doing a deep dive today and really trying to figure out what's the hype and what's actually, legit. We've gone through a bunch of stuff, some videos by this guy, Ken Berry, MD, and even a 2009 scientific study. So hopefully we can give you the down low.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new article about like all the amazing benefits of ACV. Like it can solve all your problems, right?
Totally. And I think people, like myself included, are always looking for that quick fix, that magic solution.
Oh, for sure. And Dr. Barry even talks about this in one of his videos. Like people get so caught up in the hype, they kind of just jump on the bandwagon without really thinking critically about it.
Yeah, and when you start hearing about apple cider vinegar curing things like PCOS, you got to wonder, right? Like, really?
Right. And that's where things get a little tricky because you have all these anecdotal stories like, oh, my aunt's friend tried apple cider vinegar and it cured her eczema.
Right, right.
And people take that as scientific evidence, and then that spreads like wildfire online. But the truth is there just hasn't been enough research, especially large-scale studies on humans, to back up a lot of these claims.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those myths.
Yeah.
Dr. Berry actually breaks down 7 of them in one of his videos. What were some that stood out to you?
Well, he talks about how ACV can supposedly cure diabetes, prevent heart disease, melt fat away. Like, come on, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But, it's easy to see how these myths take hold. People are looking for answers, and ACV seems harmless enough.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because even though Dr. Berry debunks these myths, he doesn't seem totally against ACV. He even mentions using it himself for heartburn, right?
Exactly. And I think that's important. He's not saying ACV is useless or anything, but he's emphasizing, a balanced perspective based on actual evidence.
So it's not all bad.
Right. And one thing he really stresses is making sure you're using the right kind of ACV. He's all about that raw, unfiltered stuff with the mother.
Okay, so now we have to talk about the mother. What is that exactly?
So the mother is basically all those strands of proteins, enzymes, and good bacteria that form naturally during fermentation. It's what gives raw ACV that cloudy look.
Okay.
And while more research is needed, there's some thought that the mother could be responsible for some of those potential health benefits. Yeah, so in his other video, Dr. Berry actually dives into some of the potential benefits of ACV that, do have some research to back them up.
Right. Right. And I was really interested in that part because, okay, we've busted some myths, but is there anything ACV can actually help with?
Well, you know how we talked about that myth about ACV curing diabetes? It turns out there actually is some evidence to suggest that ACV can help regulate blood sugar levels.
Oh, really? Like how so?
So studies have shown that consuming ACV, especially before or with a meal, can actually help to reduce those spikes in blood sugar that happen after you eat.
Interesting. And that makes sense, right? Because we're always told to watch those blood sugar spikes.
Exactly. And it's not about replacing medication or anything like that, but it could be a helpful tool in addition to diet and exercise.
Okay, so blood sugar regulation. Got it.
Yeah.
What else? What about this whole thing about ACV making you feel fuller?
Right, satiety. So there's some evidence to support that too. It seems like ACV might help to slow down how quickly food empties from your stomach, which can then lead to feeling fuller for longer.
I actually have noticed that myself. I like to add a splash of ACV to my salad dressings, and I swear, I don't feel as hungry afterwards.
I've heard other people say that too. And it's not just anecdotal. There have been some small studies that back that up.
Interesting. Okay, so what about weight loss? Everyone always talks about ACV and weight loss. Is there any truth to that?
So this is where it gets a little trickier. There isn't a ton of research on this specifically, but there was that one study Dr. Berry mentioned from 2009 that looked at the effects of vinegar consumption on obese individuals.
Okay, and what did they find?
So this was a Japanese study, and they found that the participants who consumed vinegar daily actually did experience a decrease in body weight, body fat mass, and even triglyceride levels, which is a type of fat found in the blood.
Oh, wow. So it's not like a magic weight loss potion or anything.
Right, exactly. More research is definitely needed, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a lot of the potential benefits we're talking about, whether it's blood sugar regulation, feeling full, or even this potential link to weight management, they all kind of point back to gut health, right?
That's a really good point. And, it made me think about how Dr. Berry was saying he uses ACV for heartburn, and then he had all those viewers chiming in saying that it helped them too.
Right. So it's like maybe there's something to this gut health connection.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely an area where more research is needed, but it's fascinating to consider.
It really is. So we've talked about the myths, we've talked about the potential benefits. Now for the practical stuff. Let's say someone's listening and thinking, okay, I'm intrigued by this ACV thing.
Yeah.
How do I actually incorporate it into my life?
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? Like, how do we actually put this into practice?
Exactly. So first things first, we've got to talk about the type of ACV. Remember how we talked about the mother?
Right.
Make sure you're getting raw, unfiltered ACV with the mother in it. It's usually pretty easy to spot because it'll look a little cloudy.
Okay, got it. We're looking for the cloudy stuff. And then in terms of how much to take, any guidelines there? Yeah, Dr. Berry recommends starting with about 15 milliliters per day, but of course, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before adding anything new to your routine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you have any health conditions or are taking any medications, definitely check with your doctor first.
For sure. And when it comes to actually consuming it, you can take it straight if you're feeling brave.
Oh, wow. Straight. I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's pretty intense that way. But a lot of people prefer to dilute it in water or add it to something else to kind of mask the taste.
That's what I was thinking. Because it is pretty strong.
Oh, yeah. But you can get creative with it.
Wow.
Add it to salad dressings, smoothies, marinades. I've even seen people use it in baking.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so there are definitely ways to make it more palatable. But speaking of the strong taste, I've also heard that ACV can be hard on your teeth.
That's true. Because it is acidic, it can potentially erode tooth enamel over time, especially if you're taking it straight and not diluting it.
So definitely something to be mindful of. Any tips for protecting your teeth?
Diluting it is always a good idea. And rinsing your mouth out with water after you have some can also help to neutralize the acid.
Good to know. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've busted some myths, explored some potential benefits, and even gotten into the practicalities of how to incorporate ACV into your life.
It's been a really, absolutely. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire some of our listeners to explore other fermented foods and their potential benefits too.
I love that. There's always something new to discover in the world of health and wellness. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but keep those questions coming, and we'll keep diving deep to bring you the answers. Until next time.